Welcome to your Optimal Personal Economy podcast with Justin Bennett. Your personal economy is your ability to create, protect, preserve, and utilize your wealth, your financial world. Justin will share strategies and stories to help you optimize your personal economy. Now, on to the show with Justin Bennett and co-host Matt Halloran.
Hello and welcome to episode number 18 with Justin Bennett. Last time we talked about embracing accountability on episode 17. Today we're shifting into people want safety. Now, Justin, you gave some great examples as we were preparing for this podcast of all of the things that people do, and some of them are kind of ridiculous on what they do to keep themselves safe. Would you mind sharing that with the audience before we dive into this today?
Yeah, I thought that it makes sense to spend some time on what is probably a really, really simple conversation, but often not had. And so when we talk about people wanting safety, I'm referring to simply the way that human beings operate on a day-to-day basis, right? Just in general. And so when you tie this thought process to some actual examples, I could cite so many different examples where, it just confirms that human beings want safety. And so what I would do is just kind of ramble off a couple. I always kind of laugh because the first thing that I do, and most everybody does when they get in their car to go wherever they're going to go, is before the car's either turned on or put in reverse or drive, they reach across and they put their seatbelt on, right? So they've kind of, thought to themselves that they want to be in a position where they're safe, they're protected. So they just simply, the element of putting your seatbelt on, how about like the whole concept of like when you go to bed at night, wherever you may live, you make sure that the doors are locked, right? So people lock their doors. It's not like you keep the door unlocked and in the middle of the summer you open the one door and, just kind of leave it there. Like people want to go to bed, peace of mind, to know that they're safe and their house is locked up and their family's protected and their valuables are not exposed. I'm a sports guy, so what occurred to me is it's like, in the NFL, the rules have evolved and changed to the point that, they've rules in place in the NFL that suggest you can't tackle a certain way because it may result in harm to the, people. And so you can't, play this professional sport a certain way because if you play it a certain way, it takes away from the safety of the game. I'm just trying to think here and look at some of my notes. How about this one? I live in New Jersey, and so I know that New Jersey is a big state for trying to identify people that are driving down the road and don't have Bluetooth, right, or don't have an earpiece thing. And so, the whole idea that there's a law around not holding your cell phone in one hand up to your ear and your one other hand on the steering wheel, because that doesn't, create a safe environment, and that leads to accidents, right? So, how about like when you go to the beach, like, because we occasionally will find ourselves at the Jersey Shore, and you show up and there's the lifeguard stands, and you have the different flags. So green means it's safe. The lifeguards say, "Yep, go ahead, swim." Yellow means, hey, questionable. But a red flag would suggest it's not safe in the water. Don't swim in the ocean. So it's like there's this kind of idea that, hey, they associate a red flag with it not being safe. Another just example that I would say is that it seems kind of silly, but whoever drinks coffee, sometimes people get concerned that if they pick up their coffee after they purchase it or make it, that the coffee cup's going to be too hot. So like there's been this invention of like a sleeve that goes around your coffee cup to protect your hand so your hand's safe and doesn't burn. Right? So like here's just like a bunch of examples where no matter where we turn and what we do and ultimately how we're wired, like we truly as human beings want safety. We want protection. And so I point this out because to me it always blows my mind if we then start to move into this planning conversation and there's a thought process that all of a sudden around one's planning or around one's money, they're simply going to turn their head, look the other way, away from safety and protection, and just start focusing on other things that are risky, that cause potential harm because of ongoing costs or, just a simple understanding of not knowing what one may have. So around their money, their planning, their assets and their insurance. And so I just think that it's almost like very abstract to me that, we live in a safety first, protection first kind of a society. And I just, as I mentioned earlier here, a bunch of examples. And then all of a sudden, when it comes to one's planning or money, somebody, may behave differently than how they behave everywhere else. And I think, fundamentally, Matt, if I dig back or dig in a little bit more to why that may be the case, I think, it comes down to, I'm pretty convinced that it comes down to people feel like in order to get safety in their planning and around their money, it would require them to use a dollar, and that usage of that dollar to get that safety and that protection is going to take away from something else in their world, whether it be consumption for today or potential wealth building or a hypothetical rate of return that may or may not end up playing out. And so there's this ongoing internal fight that if a dollar is earmarked for safety or for protection, it takes away from something else. And so the easy thing is to just move away from safety or protection and focus on this other stuff. But yet the rest of their life, the rest of their world, and the rest of society is always living a safety first, protection first kind of way of being. So I think that, you got to just give that some thought. And I challenge those that are listening to that whole consideration, because there just seems to be a really, really big disconnect between those two when you kind of, think about it in that light.
And that's it for episode number 18. Do you have anything else that seemed like a great conclusion there, Justin?
I think I'm all out of gas around this topic. I wanted to be short, abbreviated, but to the point. And I think the message is pretty clear.
I absolutely agree with you. And everybody, people do want safety, and that's this episode number 18. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, make sure you click the subscribe now button below. That way, every time Justin comes out with a new podcast, it will show up directly on your listening device. For Justin Bennett, this is Matt Haller, and this was episode number 18, People Want Safety. We'll see you again very soon for another podcast.